Good evening, everyone. It's now 6:30 and we're going to commence when Phil Smith settles down. Okay, well done. Thanks, Phil. Thank you. Thank you. I'm not the chair, yeah. Oh, yeah, you're fine. So welcome to the Central Lancashire Strategic Planning Joint Advisory Committee. And what the first thing we need to do is to appoint a chair for the meeting, and it's normally standard practice that the host authority takes that position. Can I have a nomination, please, for chair?
Nominate Councillor Flannery.
Well done.
I was going to propose a change to the norm and do something different. Happy to second that, Chair. Happy to second that, Chair.
Thank you. Everyone in agreement? Everyone in agreement? Yes, yeah. Raise your hands. That's good. Okay, unanimous. Thank you for that, and thanks for your endorsement, Caleb and Alistair. Appreciate it. Okay, so everyone, let's see if we can get this done in an efficient way as possible. So good evening, and thank you for attending this meeting of the Central Lancashire Strategic Planning Joint Advisory Committee. The meeting is being recorded whilst in public session and streamed live to YouTube. If you are attending the meeting as an observer and wish to speak, please come forward by the microphone, or if you are dialing in via Teams, unmute your microphone when I invite you to speak. Please introduce yourself. I'll begin with some housekeeping rules. Please can you ensure that all mobile phones are either switched off or on silent? With obviously the recent news on COVID, we have hand sanitizer and cleaning spray located around the room for you to use, and if you need to at any point. We are not anticipating a fire alarm drill, but if the alarm goes off, you should leave by the fire exit in the wheel room and wait on the grassy area to the west paddock. So therefore, the meeting is officially open. So thank you everyone for coming. First agenda item, apologies for absence, Charlotte.
Yes, Chair, we've had apologies from Councillor Mal Donoghue.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you, David. Okay, Councillor Green.
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. Can I give my apologies for not attending the pre-meeting? I must have missed the memo, I'm guessing, because I wasn't notified about the pre-meeting. Could you explain why pre-meeting was held without all members being invited to it?
Okay, well, no need to apologise, Councillor Green. I'm not sure why you weren't invited, but we'll find out and I will come back to you. Okay.
I have to say, this obviously predates your involvement, Councillor Flannery, but it's not the first time that the County Council representatives have not been invited to such pre-meetings.
Okay.
And putting it bluntly, it's not acceptable. We are partners along with the 3 districts to this process, and it needs to change. I'll leave that with you. Thank you.
All right, well, listen, thank you for that. I appreciate it, and we don't want you to be frustrated or left out. We'll look into it and we'll get back to you, but please, you know, it wasn't intended if you think it was. Whatever the process was, I'm chairing this tonight. I wasn't aware that you weren't invited, but we'll leave it at there for now. We'll come back to you after the meeting if that's okay.
Yeah,
and
thank you. I appreciate it wasn't intended by yourself.
No, that's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yes, sorry, Chair. That's probably my fault. My colleague and I saw a councillor on the car park, and I referred it to as a pre-meet. It wasn't a pre-meet. It was a discussion about another matter. Yeah. So my apologies for that, for misleading.
Okay, thanks for clearing that up. Okay, is that all right, Michael? All right, we'll sort it out in future. Thank you. Cheers. Okay, next item. Any declarations of interest, please? Okay, none to record, Charlotte. So we're doing well. Next item, minutes of the previous meeting, which were held on the 22nd of March, 2022. Got the minutes here. Do we have a proposer and a seconder for those minutes, please? Councillor? Yeah, councillors propose them there. Any seconder, please? Councillor Bradley, thank you for that. Okay, all in favour, take a vote on that, Charlie. Show of hands, please. Thank you, they've been approved. Thank you for that. Councillor Smith, can you come? Yeah, come forward, Phil, just press one.
Is with regard to the minutes of the meeting on note 165, and that's on page 7, it's right at the top. It refers to there were 2 strategic sites in Cewerdon, which at the time were confidential and part of the county's master plan. And I have a feeling that is referring to two sites. One is in Dale, I would imagine, and the other one is in Den. Because there are not two sites in Dale, as far as I know, there aren't two sites in Dale. So I'm assuming it's referring to one and the other.
Okay, well, we'll check that out.
Yeah, well, and another one, it's number 166 on education planning. It says it's coming forward to this meeting, and it doesn't appear to be on the agenda, Chair.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay, cheers for them, Phil. Let me just inquire about the first one first.
I think it's just an error in the minutes,
Is it?
so we'll just get that corrected.
So,
What's the other one? Sorry.
so this is the education one, Carolyn. The education planning was supposed to be coming to this
Oh,
committee.
yeah, so we've just been discussing, sorry, yeah, so we were discussing whether it would be better to have the education meetings direct with the local plan working group, so it gives a wider audience at each of the councils an opportunity to hear from the county council on education matters. So that'll be something that will be discussed with the local plan working groups, with an intention of coming to your meetings in September. I think your next one will be. They were meant to come to the last Jack. It was to come to that meeting, but since then they have attended a local plan working group with Chorley, and the intention is that we have had discussions with officers, members, to be agreed that we will bring it to the next Jack or to take it to local plan working groups.
Okay, Councillor Burrow.
Just on that point, I do think the idea of taking it to the local groups is really important. I attended a parish council meeting for Lear and Cotton last night, and the issue of education places was really important. And I think the more that those discussions involve members at district council level, the better, I think.
Okay, thank you. All right, thanks for your contribution there. Okay, so we still okay with those? What we'll do, Phil, it was a typo, I've just been so we'll correct that typo if that's okay. And thanks for your contribution. Appreciate it as always. Appreciate that. Cheers. Okay, everyone. We're up to agenda item number 6. So the Central Lancashire local plan update, and I'm going to invite Carolyn in to give us the update. Over to you, Carolyn. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So apologies for those of you who've had to hear this already, they are twice tonight, and for press, and obviously you haven't had your meeting yet. So just a quick update of progress on the local plan. One of the things that we're looking at is expediting the delivery of the local plan, and we have appointed consultants listed within the first paragraph to assist us with doing this. So they are DLP, Land Use Consultants, and JBA. And we've also enlisted the support of officers from the 3 councils into the local plan team as well, which has been extremely appreciated. So this is helping us to deliver the plan this year. We have had some delays in commissioning some aspects of work, which has impacted on the timetable, but we are still aiming to get that consultation started this year. On the site updates, we completed the initial assessment of all the calls for sites, and we are now in the process of working with strategic partners such as the County Council on education and highways, as well as partners like the Environment Agency and United Utilities on flooding. And we're also trying to engage with the site allocations that are in the existing local plans where they haven't been resubmitted to us, to ensure that those sites are deliverable if we're taking them forward. We still haven't had responses from those landowners, so it looks like we're taking that list to officers for their review as to whether we need to take those forward. On the preferred options document itself, we are aware of the levelling up bill, which my colleague Catherine will be talking about shortly. We are aware that there are changes coming through that, but it is very clear from the Chief Planning Officer that we should still be continuing with delivery of the local plans with the aim of adoption by December 2023, and that is still the aim of the 3 councils, to move this plan as quickly as we can. To say we've been working with some colleagues across Environment Agency, United Utilities and the County Council on sustainable water management policies, and also working very closely with Historic England, who have offered us expertise in doing the heritage impact assessments and appraisal of sites there. And we're currently looking at finalising that timetable with the aim of consultation this year, as I've said. On the flood risk assessment, we had additional sites that came through following call for sites 3, so they have now been appraised. And the final suite of sites for flood risk, those that we feel have further risk and we need to understand those before we consider allocating them, have now been sent to JBA for assessment. It's only a small number of the sites that fall into that category. On the evidence base for housing, DLP are working on a number of options, and this has been using the work that BE Group presented a few months back on the economic projections for central Lancashire. And this is aimed at giving us an understanding of what our need will be across the 3 councils and potential options then for any distribution of that. On the Transport Master Plan, I've got a note which I'll be updating you on shortly, but the County Council have commissioned a new study, and this model that they have prepared through that work will be equivalent to those that are run in Merseyside and Greater Manchester. So rather than being a road-centric approach, this now gives us opportunities to look at sustainable transport modes, such as cycling, walking, rail and bus, which we really appreciate the work that the County Council have put in there. And we're looking to start modelling those options later this month. On the land use study, the consultants are now looking to do a next stage of work, and this is looking at greenbelt harm and landscape sensitivity assessments. So the greenbelt assessment will look at all the sites that have been submitted to us in the greenbelt, so we can have a good understanding of what the impact of releasing any of those will be, and that allows us to then have the evidence in place when we get to examination in public to understand how to defend any representations that come back from developers in those cases. On the landscape sensitivity work, this area will allow us to understand more how the value of the landscape contributes to the settlement of areas, and that adds value to open space designations and to the greenbelt work. And both of those studies are looking to complete around September, October time. On local plan viability, our consultants Aspinall Verdi are now assisting us as well on preparing the infrastructure development plan and have started gathering information on there. And this is effectively a list of all the infrastructure requirements that will come forward as a local plan. So a lot of that work will still be to come forward following work that county are doing on education and highways. And it will also be something that we'll need to engage with the developers on to understand if those sites are still deliverable when you consider the additional requirements that need to come forward with that. They will also need to understand the policy requirements as well that the local plan will apply, which will also affect the viability. So the full plan viability itself won't be undertaken until all those pieces of work have been completed. We've also updated the Gypsy and Traveller Accommodation Assessment. Well, we're in the process of finalising that work, and this is really to look at any change in need that might have come about over the last couple of years, and also to look at an alternative approach to how we provide for the transit requirement that was identified. So this is looking at whether we can identify a policy approach which identifies ways of using vacant land when travellers need it to use it. So that's something that we'll bring to you in due course when that's completed. KKP are working with us on the open space assessment, and this piece of work is really important to understand, again, on viability and infrastructure requirements, what the impact will be of new housing sites in particular on open space requirements. So to do that, we need to understand what our baseline position is and whether our sites need improving, and to understand whether there is sufficient capacity within those existing sites to meet future need. So that piece of work is ongoing, and again, the home teams are assisting us with that. And the last point is just to note the continued work on duty to cooperate. We've been involved in assisting in responses to neighbouring plans, which included the Places for Everyone for Greater Manchester, Blackburn's local plan and Wire's local plan, and again continuing to engage with partners such as EA and the Historic England. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Carolyn. Once again, a very comprehensive report, so thank you and well done for that. Okay, are there any questions from members of, first of all, the committee, please? No? Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from members not on committee tonight? No? Carolyn, you've done well. Aye, well done again. Okay, can we note that report, please? Okay, let's go on to the agenda item number 7, please. We're going to invite Catherine Greenwood to present this item. So, Catherine, over to you.
Thank you. Charlotte's going to control the presentation for me. So if we can move on to the first slide, please, then. Thank you. So I prepared a presentation on the Levelling Up and Regeneration Bill, which was published on the 11th of May this year, along with an accompanying policy note. It proposes a number of reforms to drive local growth, regenerate towns and cities, and improve the planning system. So within this presentation, I've summarised some of the key reforms that are proposed. There are a lot of them, but I'll try and get through them quite quickly. So if you move on to the... Yeah, you've already moved on, sorry. So one of the objectives with the bill is to give more power to local leaders to meet their community's needs. And it is proposed within the bill that this will be achieved by making it easier to devolve powers through a new type of combined authority model known as the combined county authorities. And this will be made up of upper tier local authorities only, so county councils and unitary authorities. And they will be expected to work closely with district councils in their area who will be able to be non-constituent members of that combined authority. The bill also proposes to simplify the processes for establishing and amending new and existing combined authorities, which will quicken the process of devolving new powers. So we move on to the next slide, please. So the bill also sets out a number of reforms relating to plan making in order to strengthen the role of plans, get them in place faster, and ensure that decisions on plan applications are more genuinely plan-led. So these reforms include, firstly, the introduction of a suite of national development management policies, and it's expected that these will be on issues that apply to most local authorities, so it will be a generic set of policies. This will make local plans prepared by local authorities more streamlined and reduce the time and cost of preparing plans. It does say within the bill, if there is a conflict between the national development management policies and local plans, the national development management policies will be given more weight than local plans. Secondly, development plans are to be given more weight in the decision-making process. I think they're emphasising that there will have to be strong reasons to override the plan when determining planning applications. Next, planning is to be made more digitally focused so that it's more accessible and easily understood. And the duty to cooperate is to be replaced with a more flexible alignment test, but there are no details available on what that will involve at present. And neighbourhood planning is to be given greater weight in planning decisions and made simpler. And it is proposed that parish councils and neighbourhood forums will be allowed to prepare a simpler neighbourhood priority statement, which local authorities are obliged to take into account when preparing local plans. We can move on to the next slide, please. So local authorities will have the power to prepare supplementary plans, and it's proposed that these can be used where policies for a specific site, for example, or a group of sites needs to be established quickly, setting out design standards for another example. These will replace current supplementary planning documents, and they will have more weight as they will be independently examined. There's also a proposal to withdraw the requirement to demonstrate a 5-year supply where the local plan is up to date, and up to date is defined as adopted within the last 5 years. And the purpose of this is to ensure that newly prepared plans are not undermined. Also, regulations will be updated to set clear timetables for local plan preparation. So the expectation will be that they're produced within 30 months and updated at least every 5 years. And there will be a requirement for 2 rounds of community engagement before plans are submitted for examination. And finally, new local plan commissioners may be appointed by the Secretary of State, and the purpose of them is to support local authorities, or they can actually take over plan making if a local authority fails to meet their statutory duties. So moving on, the bill also includes proposals to simplify the current system for delivering infrastructure. So the current system of developer contributions is to be replaced with an infrastructure levy, which will be a simple, non-negotiable, locally set levy, and it will replace the current community infrastructure levy and Section 106 agreements. However, Section 106 agreements may still be able to be used on larger sites, but in the main, they won't be in place. The levy will be charged on the value of a property when sold rather than floor space, which is the current situation with our sale in central Lancashire. And the purpose of this is to allow developers to price in the value of contributions into the value of the land, allow liabilities to respond to market conditions, and remove the need for obligations to be renegotiated further down the line. And local authorities will be required to prepare an infrastructure delivery strategy, which will set out local infrastructure to be delivered and the levy proceeds, how the levy proceeds will be spent, and that these will replace the current infrastructure funding statements that each authority currently prepares. So we move on to the next slide, please. Thank you. The bill also sets out reforms that seek to deliver high quality design and beautiful places and foster better environmental outcomes. To achieve this, every local authority will be required to produce a design code for its area, and these codes will have full weight in decision making and will either form part of the local plan or be prepared as a supplementary plan. Important categories of designated heritage assets will be given the same statutory protection in the planning system as listed buildings and conservation areas. So this includes scheduled monuments, registered parks and gardens and World Heritage sites. And the current EU requirements for environmental assessment, which include strategic environmental assessment and environmental impact assessments, will be replaced with environmental outcome reports, which will be a clearer and simpler process and will be assessed against outcomes set by the government. So moving on to regeneration, the bill proposes a number of measures to support land assembly and regeneration. Firstly, changes to the compulsory purchase order powers, with the process being simplified and reducing the time and risk involved. Provisions for a new type of locally led urban development corporation. So local authorities will be able to request that the Secretary of State designates a regeneration area and establishes a development corporation who will be accountable to local authorities rather than the Secretary of State. New powers to force landlords to find tenants for vacant high street buildings. So local authorities will have powers to ensure that landlords auction empty shops or commercial premises to find new tenants, and they will apply to properties in town centres or high streets that have been vacant for more than a year. And existing temporary measures on pavement licensing will be made permanent, which were initially introduced in response to the COVID pandemic. And the bill also proposes the introduction of several technical changes to planning processes to make them work more efficiently and effectively and deter breaches. These include the period for taking enforcement action increasing to 10 years, the introduction of enforcement warning notices, fines for planning breaches will be increased, an increase in planning fees for major and minor applications of 35% and 25% respectively, doubling fees for retrospective applications and speeding up the planning appeals process. And it says that PINs will be given power to change the procedure for determining an appeal if an alternative would be more suitable. So finally, the next steps. The government will continue to work on the detail of the regulations, policy and guidance, and will consult on how the provisions can be taken forward, because at present there's very little detail on how they will be implemented. It's expected that changes to planning procedures will begin to take place from 2024 once the bill has royal assent and associated regulations and changes to national policy are in place, and there'll also need to be transitional arrangements agreed. So as Carolyn mentioned, obviously all this may have an impact on local plan preparation depending on when new policy and legislation is introduced. Thank you.
Okay, Catherine, thank you very much for that. Again, very comprehensive update. Just to let everyone know, we will be circulating the slides for information. I know you haven't received them in the pack. So are there any questions from members on the committee, please, first? Councillor Burrow.
When are governments intending introducing legislation?
I think it does say from 2024 onwards, we think that it should be implemented.
The slide said that the new regulations would be implemented from the beginning of 2024. So that means by then it would have had royal assent. And we're now halfway through 2022 and we haven't got a green paper or a draft bill, and we've got to consult on it. It's got to go through the whole parliamentary process and get royal assent and then be signed off and introduced at the beginning of 2024. I suspect it's a bit cloud cuckoo.
Okay, well, thanks for that, Councillor. I'm not going to bow to your experience because you have plenty of it. So good contribution. Thanks for that. But we will wait and see, as you say. Okay, any comments from any questions from people not on committee, please? No? Okay, and can we note that report? Thanks for that. Thanks again, Catherine. Well done. Okay, let's go on to agenda item number 8, please, the Central Lancashire Local Plans Transport Model Update. And back to you, Carolyn, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so apologies, this came late. I only got that myself this week from the County Council. And apologies again, no one from the County Council is available to present this, so you are stuck with me. So this is literally just to give you an update in addition to what was included in my reports and item 7. So it was just to let you know that the County Council have commissioned Jacobs to undertake this work. And this will be a Central Lancashire transport model, and it will include a bus assignment model, a comprehensive demand and mode choice model, and give us a lot more opportunities to test and analyse future travel patterns, which we currently can't do. So we'll be able to look at demand and opportunities from sites. The County Council have noticed it's a significant investment and improves our transport planning capacity and puts us on the like of Greater Manchester and Merseyside. And from conversations I've had with them, they said, we are the first area in Central Lancashire to get this model. It has relied on some data from bus companies, and they have been required to sign a non-disclosure, which has taken some time there. But to ensure that the model itself isn't delayed, they have been progressing with other aspects of that. And it is still expected that they'll be able to start modelling from, I think it's 2 weeks' time. So the model data has used traffic counts were undertaken in 2019. So this predates any impact that obviously the pandemic will have had. So it will be modelled on traffic patterns at that time. So it will account for, effectively a normal position, which should give us a good starting point. And I say it will be a critical refresh, as they know, to the Central Lancs Highways and Transport Master Plan. The existing Transport Master Plan itself was to deliver the existing local plan and has enabled developments to happen across there. And it's noted that it's seen over £300 million spent to date on new road space and improvements to corridors and facilities. So I'm seeing it's been really successful in that aspect. And this new refresh is to be guided with the local plan, and we have been working with them to get this in tandem with us. And they do note that the master plan refresh is including a number of other evidence-based documents. So this includes the bus service plan for Lancashire, looking at the national bus strategy and ways of securing funding to enhance partnerships of bus operators. Cycling and walking delivery plans. These are something that we were already keen to embrace within the local plans. They're known as the L-WIPs or LC WIPs, so they call them here. So the consultants have been commissioned to update those, which should be helpful because it gives us a much more robust position for the local plan itself. There's a city transport plan for Preston that's been done, a transport strategy that Chorley's had done, and they've talked about progressing a series of transport plans and strategies at the county level for decarbonising transport and travel, and trying to give us opportunities for electric vehicles and improving health across the county as a whole. So it's just to kind of give you an update that this work is still ongoing, but it will be in tandem with what we're doing in the local plan, and will give us a new Central Lancashire Transport Master Plan or Highways Master Plan, which will be published alongside the publication stage of the local plan. The findings of the initial work will just inform our work on sites and our viability work. The actual Transport Master Plan will follow on this. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Carolyn. I'm just thinking, is there any reason why someone from Lancashire County wasn't made available to do them?
They just, unfortunately, I was just told they weren't available to attend, Chair.
All right, thanks for that. Just before we go any further, I think there's been some breaking news politically, hasn't he? The Chancellor and Health Secretary have quit. So that's interesting for all of us in the world we occupy. So interesting. Okay. Do we have any questions from members of the committee, please, on the local transport model, please?
Chair.
No?
Chair.
Oh, Councillor Tomlinson, please.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Find it ironic there's no mention of the rail network in this report. Is there any reason why that is?
None. I mean, it will include sustainable transport modes, and we have had conversations with the County Council about train stations and opportunities to open new train stations. And there was a piece of work which was undertaken between Central Lancashire and West Lancs, which looked at opportunities for looking at train stations and tram networks, which may not all be realistic, but gave us opportunities to see where we could pursue some options. So the County Council are aware of our interest in rail and will ensure that this model looks at how we can use that as well.
Okay, thanks, Carol.
Okay, Caleb, yeah. Caleb, okay.
Yes.
Good, yeah, okay. David?
It's just on the issue of the County Council being here. I mean, my concern about the report is that it's based on the pre-COVID travel numbers. And clearly, as we get into the local planning detail, at some point, we're going to have to make an assessment of the impact of COVID. And the people who are the experts, who would be the experts on that, are the people that count it rather than us. So I just think as part of the process, having a session, trying to explore as much as they know, knowing that it's not going to be perfect, a lot of it's going to be guesswork, but I think that would be a useful session sometime later this year to just make sure they're here so we can explore some of their thinking around the impact of COVID on future travel patterns.
Okay. Thanks, David. Yeah, good point. I think I've just made a note there that Marcus Hudson should be from Lancashire, and do know Marcus, so I will follow up and just inquire and just basically outline the importance of having someone here when we have discussions like this. So, Callan, did you need to come back to anyone? Are you okay with that?
And I have got a session with the County Council tomorrow, so I can raise the point about the COVID travel and the need for perhaps a more detailed session with members at the next Jack.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, is that committee members okay? So we're going to go to non-committee members. Any questions, please? No. Okay, can we note that report? Thank you, everyone. Swiftly on to agenda item number 9. Local development scheme, principal timescales, and to your surprise, we're going to invite Carolyn Williams back on.
Yeah, you're sick of me now. Yeah, it's just to update you on the progress. So obviously we haven't published a new local development scheme yet, and we do get a number of inquiries about that. We are working to just get some finalised dates for pieces of work like the transport one that we've just been doing, we've only just got recently. So we'd need to just plan all those in, and then we should be able to get a date where we can have a draft plan ready to bring to local plan working groups and Jack, and then for consultation towards the end of this year. And that will then lead us into a position to go to publication in 2023 and hopefully submission towards the end of that year as well. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, very brief. Thank you for that, Carolyn. Are there any questions from members on the committee for that item? No? Okay. Oh, Councillor Green.
Thanks, Chairman. I mean, we've said that we're intending on having the local plan approved by the end of December 2023. That's next year. That's not a lot of time. Are we confident that that will be achieved?
As I just noted, we're looking to will be submission for the end of next year, which we feel will meet the government's requirements of having a plan progress sufficiently at that stage. So it will be a plan in all sense and purposes of the draft plan policies and site allocations within that document. And we feel that will meet the government's requirements.
Okay, Michael. Cheers. Okay, any questions from non-committee members? No. Okay. Can we note that report? Thank you. Okay, we're on now to agenda item number 10, which is date and venue for next meeting. Who's going to inform me of that?
It's Preston in September 20. Yeah, try and remember.
Oh yeah, sorry to hear. No, sorry. Thank you. No, Charlotte's given us that. So it's in Preston, Tuesday the 20th of September at 6:30. Can't wait. Okay. Right. Agenda item number 11 is the exclusion of press and public, please. So we needed to vote on that. So we need to someone to propose. Alistair's going to move it. Seconded. And can we vote, please? Yeah. Thank you. That's unanimous. So